During the last ice age, approximately 36,000 to 11,000 years ago, the planet endured a harsh and frozen climate. Vast ice sheets covered extensive areas of North America, Europe, and Asia. At that time, sea levels were about 122 meters lower than today. This drastic reduction exposed submerged lands, creating previously non-existent connections between continents. One such connection was the Bering Land Bridge, which linked what we now know as Siberia in Russia to Alaska in the United States. This stretch of land became a vital corridor for the movement of species, both animal and human, between Asia and North America. It served as a gateway to new lands, new opportunities, and for some, an insurmountable challenge. The Bering Land Bridge, with its strategic location, was the stage for one of the most significant migrations in the history of life on Earth. For a long time, scientists believed that the bridge was an extension of arid, grassy plains, similar to the modern steppes of Siberia. This view initially made sense. After all, many of the large mammals that crossed the bridge, such as mammoths and bison, were adapted to cold climates and open terrain. However, this perspective raised an intriguing question. If the bridge was so accessible and seemingly ideal for migration, why didn't some species cross it? This gap in understanding spurred a series of studies over the years. For scientists, understanding the true environment of the Bering Land Bridge was crucial to unraveling how climate, geography, and vegetation shaped migration patterns. The prevailing view of a dry and arid environment began to be challenged as new scientific techniques emerged, enabling a more detailed analysis of the region's geological and climatic past. It is within this quest for answers that the research of Sarah Fowle, a geologist at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, comes into focus. Geologist Sarah Fowle, from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, has dedicated her career to uncovering the mysteries of the planet's geological past. Fascinated by the Bering Land Bridge, Fowle sought answers to a central question: what was the true nature of this corridor during the last ice age? Her research began to take shape when, along with her team, she decided to explore the sediments of the Bering Sea floor. Conducting an expedition in this region, however, was anything but simple. The Bering Sea is notoriously treacherous, with rough waters and extreme weather conditions that challenge even the most seasoned explorers. Despite these difficulties, the team succeeded in obtaining sediment samples, a groundbreaking achievement in the history of science. These sediments, retrieved from deep layers of the seabed, held the buried secrets of the land bridge, preserved for thousands of years. The sediments revealed a wealth of information. Small fossils, pollen, organic matter, and even fragments of ancient DNA were found within the samples. It was as if the team had unearthed a lost book, with its pages recounting the story of the land bridge's landscape at its peak. These findings enabled the reconstruction of the vegetation, climate, and environmental conditions of the era with unprecedented detail. We expected to find evidence of large lakes, Fowle explained in an interview, but what we discovered was something much more dynamic, a complex system of small lakes interconnected by river channels. This revelation changed everything. Rather than a barren, uniform landscape, the land bridge was, in fact, a rich and diverse ecosystem, with wetlands that supported a wide variety of life. The research also faced technical challenges. To analyze the sediments, the team employed advanced dating tools and molecular analysis techniques. Through these methods, they discovered traces of mosses and trees that grew in elevated areas, as well as fossils of freshwater crustaceans, such as those from the genus Daphnia. These findings began to paint a new picture. The Bering Land Bridge was not merely a pathway for species migration, but also a vibrant and dynamic ecosystem that shaped the routes of those who attempted to cross it. The traditional view of the Bering Land Bridge as a vast expanse of arid steppes began to crumble in the face of evidence collected by Sarah Fowle's team. The sediments extracted from the Bering Sea floor revealed a strikingly different scenario: a mosaic of lakes, river channels, and wetlands interspersed with patches of denser vegetation in the higher elevations. At the heart of this landscape, small lakes and meandering rivers course through low, water-saturated terrain. The presence of moss and tree pollen suggested vegetation adapted to cold, wet environments, quite distinct from the grasses typical of a steppe. These ecosystems, while seemingly hospitable to certain species, pose significant challenges for others. Fossils of freshwater crustaceans from the genus Daphnia indicated the predominance of freshwater habitats, while ancient DNA found in the sediments painted an even richer picture of the region's biodiversity. The Bering Land Bridge was not a barren steppe, but a vibrant corridor teeming with life, Fowle explained during the presentation of her findings. This discovery had profound implications for how scientists understand patterns of animal and human migration. On the other hand, the swampy terrain also presented obstacles. Species that relied on dry, stable ground, such as woolly rhinoceroses, were unable to cross the bridge. These animals remained in Eurasia, while other large mammals, such as mammoths, bison, and horses, adapted to the conditions and traversed into the Americas, using the drier, elevated areas as routes. The idea of a diverse, challenging bridge also explained why the environment was attractive to certain migratory birds and aquatic species, yet unappealing to some terrestrial creatures. This unique interplay between climate, vegetation, and migrating species highlighted the role of the land bridge as a natural filter, allowing only the best adapted species to make the crossing. Meanwhile, the new image of the land bridge sparked debates within the scientific community. The discovery of such a dynamic and complex system transformed the world's perception of this natural corridor. Fowle's research now shed light on how these landscapes shape the fate of species that, in turn, would shape the future of the Earth. The Bering Land Bridge, with its lakes, rivers, and swampy terrain, became a unique ecological filter during the last ice age. While some species thrived in crossing it, others were thwarted by the challenging environmental conditions. This natural corridor profoundly shaped migration patterns and the biodiversity of the regions it connected. Mammoths, bison, and horses are among the most famous travelers that crossed the bridge into the Americas. These large mammals, adapted to cold climates and varied environments, found the elevated and dry areas of the bridge a safe path forward. Fossil evidence shows that these species used the bridge not just as a means of movement, but also as a temporary habitat. With mosses, hardy trees, and even small shrubs available, there were enough resources to meet their needs during the journey. However, the story was different for other creatures. Woolly rhinoceroses, for example, were unable to cross the bridge. Their reliance on firm, dry terrain made the swampy ecosystem an insurmountable obstacle. As a result, they remained in Eurasia, unable to explore the new horizons offered by the Americas. On the other hand, aquatic species and migratory birds took advantage of the wet environment. Crustaceans found in the sediments suggest that small water bodies supported food chains that attracted birds seeking sustenance and shelter. These favorable conditions for birds may have facilitated the arrival of new species in the Americas, enriching the local diversity. However, some species native to the Americas did not make the journey in the opposite direction. The flat-faced bear and the American camel, for instance, remained confined to the Americas, unable to cope with the watery characteristics of the ecosystem. This dynamic of natural selection helped determine which species would colonize new continents and which would remain isolated. The swampy environment also raises questions about the first humans who used the Bering Land Bridge. These hunter-gatherers faced significant challenges in traversing an unstable and frequently flooded terrain. Despite this, their resilience and adaptability allowed them to settle and thrive in unknown lands. This fascinating interaction between species and ecosystems makes the Bering Land Bridge not just a migration corridor, but a true proving ground for survival. The Bering Land Bridge was not just a route for animal migrations. It also played a crucial role in human history. During the last ice age, groups of hunter-gatherers crossed the bridge in search of new lands and resources. Driven by the need for survival, these human populations faced unstable terrain, extreme cold, and unpredictable climate conditions as they expanded their frontiers. The presence of small lakes and rivers provided vital resources for these early migrants, such as fresh water and fishing opportunities. However, the swampy environment also posed dangers. The unstable soil conditions made transportation difficult and left them vulnerable to accidents. Even so, human adaptability proved to be a decisive force. Rudimentary tools and hunting strategies were refined to deal with the species inhabiting the bridge and the territory beyond it. The arrival of humans in the Americas was a milestone in human history, forever transforming the ecological landscape. These early peoples brought with them hunting practices that shaped local ecosystems. Large mammals, such as mammoths, began to disappear, whether due to overhunting or a combination of this pressure with natural climate changes. The interaction between humans and the environment on the Bering Land Bridge stands as a fascinating example of the complex relationship between survival and environmental impact. Moreover, the discoveries of Sarah Fowle and her team have implications that extend beyond reconstructing a distant past. They provide insights into how climate change can affect landscapes and ecosystems today and in the future. The study highlights how specific environmental conditions can shape the movement of species and populations, an especially relevant concept in the context of current climate changes, which are creating new ecological corridors and barriers across the planet. Just as the Bering Land Bridge was a gateway for transformation, the study of its history serves as a powerful reminder that the environment and living beings are intrinsically connected. This interdependence is a crucial lesson for humanity. By understanding the past, we can better prepare for future challenges, ensuring that today's decisions preserve ecosystems for generations to come. Thus, the story of the Bering Land Bridge remains alive, not only as a testament to our past, but also as a beacon for the future.